YouTube. Today we're going to talk about how do you know if the company you're about to work for is a good one? That's a question I get a lot. Like people ask me all the time that are with the company, like they ask me, hey, these guys won't let me go home, or these guys aren't paying me good, and the only thing I can say, and the only advice I have is just do a little research. Do some research before you commit to any company, because there's thousands of companies out there, and they're going to promise you the world. They're going to tell you you're going to make so much money, and you can get home whenever you want, and they're going to tell you all this BS, because that's what it is. Because the reason they're telling you that is a lot of the big companies, and I don't really mention them. I won't mention them on this channel because it's easy enough to find the big ones, the big orange trucks, the big blue trucks. They're not hard to see, and you'll see plenty of them out here when you get out here. But really take your time, really ask questions, and I'm not talking asking questions to a recruiter. I mean that wherever you live in this country, probably within 20 or 25, maybe 30 miles away from you, there's a truck stop. And if there's a company around your house that you're considering working for, before you call them, it'd probably be worth your time when you're out running around, just doing errands or on your day off, swing into a truck stop. And if you want to work for a big company, I can almost guarantee you 100% that a few of their trucks, because the big trucks have hundreds and some of them thousands of trucks out there, they'll be there, and just there ain't no truck driver that's going to look at you crazy because you want a little information. Most of us are pretty mellow and laid back, and if you ask me about something medical or about investing or any of that, I couldn't really tell you. But if you ask me about truck driving, I could probably help you out. So a lot of truck drivers have that same mindset, and a lot of them will help you to talk to you, because the more you know before you come out here and make that jump to make this your career, the more that's beneficial to all truck drivers, because that means that you might not go to one of these real big companies that are just going to stick you in a truck with a trainer that really just started himself, and it's going to put you in probably some dangerous situations, and you're just not going to know how to deal with them, because you're not getting the training that you should really get. So just ask them about it. And if you're one of those people that you have a wife or kids, or you have something that you need to be home, you need to be home more often than not, what I would recommend is probably to start your search after you figure out how you're going to handle truck driving. If you're going to go to school, or you're going to have one of these companies pay for it, which I would not suggest at all, because there's a lot of companies, they'll pay for your truck driving. They'll do all kinds of stuff for you. They'll pay for your hotel, they'll pay for orientation, they'll do all that stuff. But the trade-off is, a lot of them, they require you to sign on with them for the minimum I've seen while I've been out here is a year. Some of them it's longer than that. So you are going to be stuck there, and then you have all these promises of all this money, and then you start seeing your checks and you're like, wait a minute, I'm not making any money. But at that point, they've already got you. The recruiter's already made their money off of you, getting you hired and getting you trained, what they call training. So they're not too much concerned about problems you're having. So do some research, and like I said, find a terminal that's close to you. I mean, that would be your best shot at probably getting home more than not, because a lot of the big companies at their terminals, wherever they're at, they have constant freight going in and out of that area. So, if you need to come through to pick up a load, you more than likely you'll be able to swing by the house, maybe stay a day, or maybe do your time off and they can schedule you that way. So, but I meet truck drivers. I met a really cool guy yesterday. He was older than me and just starting out in truck driving. And unfortunately, he signed on with one of these big companies. And he's like, he asked me, he said, I think I did pretty good last week. I made $500. I was like, oh yeah. I was like, and if you're not, familiar with the trucking industry, that is not good money. That is, it's a stretch to say that's even mediocre money. That is very, very bad money. But when you're coming from somewhere like McDonald's or, some job that wasn't paying you hardly anything, and then you see 500 a week, you're like, wow, that's good. But once you have some kind of comparison to that over the life of your career, you're going to look back and you're going to realize, like, wow, what was I doing? Why did I waste any time there at all? So, and please, whatever you do, because a lot of companies, they are really, really quick, especially big companies, they're really quick to say, hey, you know what? We can get you in a lease purchase. We can get you a brand new truck, and you're going to make way more money than the company drivers, and you'll be able to decide where you want to go. You'll be able to decide when you get home. You'll have all the freedom in the world and make 2 to 3 times the money as a company driver. Well, I have some pretty bad news for you. That's most of the times not the case. All this, you go where you want, you do what you do, all that stuff is nonsense. All that stuff is just a recruiter that was trained to tell you that just to get you to sign up, because that's different than having a company pay for your school. That is a pretty serious contract, and now you're responsible. So they don't mind giving you a brand new truck. They will give you a brand new truck. But this is a big but. There's companies out there, a lot of the big ones. Your first lease, they're going to stick you in an old truck. So the truck you get in has probably had 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe even up to 10 drivers in it before you. So you have really no idea. And if they're a decent enough company, they're going to provide you records, and they're going to let you know, hey, this is bad, this has been fixed, this has been fixed, so you have some kind of idea. But you're going to start your trucking career, more than likely, if you do that, you're going to start your career in the hole. So you're going to start in the negative if you're not in the negative already. So it doesn't make sense to me to jump into something that you don't know anything about and could cost you a lot of money for really no purpose. So another thing I would recommend is, after you talk to a driver, you say, hey, this is the company I want to go for. There's no contracts. They have good equipment. They said they'll get me home this amount of time, every 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe once a week if you get lucky and get on a dedicated or something. You might be home every week. But the good thing about the big companies also is you can get your experience. You can usually drive very nice equipment, and you can get started there. And really, a lot of companies, 3 or 4 months of experience, that's really all they're looking for. I mean, to be honest, if you can bear it for a year, that's what I would do. Because once you get that year in, even if you're not making the money you want, also job hopping's not really a good practice to get into. So, if you stay there a year and you're like, nothing's got better and I don't like this anymore, do the same steps again, do some research and go somewhere else. And eventually, if you ask enough drivers and you get enough information, you're going to find a good one. And they're out here. They are out here. There's great companies, and the other downside to big companies is a lot of them only identify you as a unit. So, like I worked for a big one years ago, and I used to call all the time. I'd always get somebody different on the phone. I'd say, yeah, this is Jay. And all they had to say to me was, what is your unit number? They had no idea who I was. So that sounds cool at first, but once you get with a mid to small size company that's paying you well, and they know your name, they know your family, they know you got your kid's birthday next week, and they're going to make sure you're there for it, I would never ever go back to all this, you know, we identify you as your truck, not as a person. So that should let you know right there, if a company doesn't take the time to even know you, that you're very much expendable. So, you know, just ask around, do some research. You know, if you had any kind of questions about anything specific, you're welcome to leave them in the comments and I'll answer them. But do some research and don't sign a lease purchase until you at least have a year, you know, maybe even 2 years to be safe. And pay attention. You know, when you're a company driver, if you really want to be a lease operator or an owner operator or any of that, if you really want to do that, then what you need to do is, while you're driving that company truck and this big company or whatever company is footing the bill, every time you put fuel in it, you know, every time that it breaks down, try to keep a little track of that. Just keep track of it and realize that, hey, if I have a truck, I'm going to have to pay for all that out of my pocket. So that might even change your mind a little about how much it really costs to do this. But just, you know, take your time. And if you're going to do this long term, it's worth a little research. I wish it didn't take me 4 or 5 companies before I found one that I've been with for years that I really like. So, you guys be safe out there. And this is Trucker by Day. And I'll see you guys in the next video.